Good morning. We are live on Facebook. Hope everybody's had a great week. Always giving you guys value. Anybody that's streaming, looking for personal growth on Facebook or Instagram, every Tuesday we are giving you guys live footage and insight on what we do here at the Institute of the Mind. And giving you guys a free class. It's very important to understand what we're here to do, and to take part in it, because it's about you. Go and get this page to load up. There we go. This is all about you and your personal growth and what it means for you to grow, what it is to set goals and work towards a worthy goal, a worthy idea. All this month we were talking about the subconscious mind and the brain, and why it's important to understand the subconscious mind in relationship to the brain. The brain is just a broadcasting and receiving station, the switching station. It transforms the ideas from the mind to the body, and the subconscious part is the part that are doing part of the mind. In the subconscious, we have programmed ideas that are already in an archive, you could say, and it's in our main server. And so when we're not thinking, that box is thinking for us. It's our automatic. And it leaves an interesting, how could I say this? The subconscious will leave interesting facts beyond maybe even to your recognition of the world that's going on in your mind. And it leaves them written in happenings all around you. When you're not aware, your subconscious mind is automatically working for you. And a lot of times you don't even recognize it. A lot of times it's choosing for you. It's choosing the ideas for you. And it's creating your reality. And it's important to recognize it and know whenever it's working and you're not. And the average individual never knows that or even understands it. So 95, they say 98% of your day was subconscious creation. It wasn't even your choice. So if 98% of your day is automatic, if it's automatic programming that you're thinking from, then you didn't create your day. It was created by your subconscious mind, your subconscious reasoning, your subconscious intellect, the ideas that you think are realistic in your own head. That's what's created your day, and that's what's functioning through your day. Now, how do I know which one's me and which one's the program side of me? Well, when you're doing what you know how to do, that's the program side of you. When you're doing and relating yourself to what's possible and what's not, that's the automatic side of you. When do you know that you're really actually creating your reality? When you're imagining it. Only when you're imagining it. Only whenever you're going into the unknown. That you're actually really wiring and firing new ideas. The rest of it was pre-programmed ideas. You could say preconceived ideas of yourself, to yourself, than my environment from the past. So we're recreating reality all the time, but normally it's not our own. It came from past experiences. It came from the environment we came into. Everything was setting up a chain of events to get exactly where you're at to what you've done today. I started to go over The Strangest Secret this past weekend, and I'm going to continue to go through it. And I'm going to start off this by Earl Nightingale, and we're going to get an illustration of the subconscious mind and how it's just moving you around without you being aware. So we're going to go through the story. Stories tell us, give us a better understanding of in the application of the mind and how it works. Let me tell you the story of what we might call the average young man in our society. From the time this boy is born, there is only one thing on this earth that he can do, and that is to begin to think, act, and talk like the people by whom he is surrounded. This is all in the world he can do. Why is it all in the world that he can do? Because the child, as he comes in, has no cells of recognition. The average child is born, does not have any identity, any information. He doesn't have before he came in, did not have a birthplace. He came into a birthplace. He did not have an environment. He came into an environment. He did not have a family. He came into a family. Or he did not have a race. He came into a race. All the things that he came into were all the ideas that were given to him. They were impressed into him. They were ideas from the people from where he came in. He had no other choice. Everything that he is taking in is somebody else's ideas. So, what can he do? He begins to think and act and talk like the people by whom he is surrounded. That is all in the world that he can do. But right off the bat, the odds are 95-5 that he's thinking, acting, and talking like the wrong group. They are wonderful people. They love him. They would do anything in the world for him. They want him to succeed. But the odds are 95-5 that they have not got the answers that he needs if he is to reach fulfillment as a human being. If he is to reach this success that he wants, if he is to reach into the deep reservoirs of ability and genius we know he possesses and draw it out, he will not reach it. 95 out of 5, he came into a family that's thinking in a certain way. Well, he starts in school. The most important thing to a boy in school is to be liked by the other little boys in school. And so at this tender age, he begins to follow other little boys, his same age, who don't know any more than he knows. Do not have his best interest at heart, and who do not necessarily have any capacity for leadership. Why? Because they came into the same group settings of the 95 that are going in the wrong direction. He does this in the first grade, in the second grade, in the third grade, the fourth grade, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, the eighth, and year after year, he forms himself into a composite average of the other little boys his age, trying to be like them, trying to do the only thing in the world that is impossible for a human being to do, which is to be like somebody else. So here you have all these kids trying to reason with each other, trying to be like each other, getting ideas from each other. All those reasoning, all that intellect, all those ideas that they're demonstrating and becoming the average of each other came from the average of the people that they came into. No wonder everybody's stuck. It's no wonder everybody's conditioned to go to work for money. If you're looking at this and you're hearing this, chances are you're working for money. And that was conditioned behavior. Who said you had to go to work for money? But that's the way you were taught, so that's what you've done. The truth is, we shouldn't go to work for money. Money was never made for us to go to work for. We should get work to work for us. We should get money to work for us. That's a different mindset. But both of them have their point of departures, and both of them have their experiences, and you've been doing that. Why would you go to work for money? Why would you go trade your time for money? Because that's what you were taught to do. Why would you go to school all the way to college, through college, and get this mindset that you're going to go and work for money? Because that's what they did. Why not think different? Why not think, I get money to work for me? I get the work to work for me. Why not think that? You may be saying, well, I don't know what that really means. I've never thought about that. It's good for you to start thinking of what that would really mean. It's good for you to start to analyze your own thoughts. Your way of thinking is not working. You know it's not. Very few will land in that 5%. Very few fall in the 3. Even much less are in the 2 and the 1. But all of those, in between those 5, that 5%, there's different levels of consciousness within that 5. But the more you begin to understand this information, the more you know that you didn't know. And the more you know that you didn't know a lot about yourself. Why is this so important? Because you're the only person that will know you. And nobody can know you better than you. And nobody's going to get you to face the man or the woman in the mirror. You can do that. But where did all of those ideas come from? And how are all of those ideas creating your reality, shaping it? Even the job you went to go pick, the profession you went to go do, the ideas, the way you put them together, the way you shape your ideas and put them together to put a goal or to not put a goal, all of that didn't come from you. The way you put your ideas together came from the family you came into. The way they gathered information and put them together to definite ends or no real definite end. Now let's say he goes all the way through school, and then usually he goes in the military service. Again, he is caught up in the vice-like grip of conformity. Now let's say he is 25 years old, out of school, out of the service. What's he going to do? As a rule, he will go back to his hometown, unless he is married, in which case he will go to his wife's hometown. But let's say he goes back to his own hometown. He's single. He doesn't know quite what to do. Why would somebody still not know quite what to do? He doesn't know who he is. All this time, we're thinking, but we're thinking from our box. And who gave us our box? Then we're going to ask ourselves, what are we going to do? Then we're already thinking how I'm going to trade my time for money. Whether you went to your service, whether you didn't, everybody's just trying to find out themselves what it is that they want to experience. But being forced to play a game to chase money. But you're being forced to chase a game to earn money because that's the way you were conditioned. You're not doing that on accident. You're programmed to do that. He doesn't know quite what to do. Some of you didn't go to the service. Some of you went to college. You went and learned to go to do what they do, to learn what they learn, to earn what they earn. And some of you are dissatisfied. You're not satisfied anymore. You're not satisfied because you reached conformity. Man, if we were really taught the mind and how it works, we wouldn't be so stuck all around the world. You may have gone to college. You may have an 8-year degree. 7, 6, 5, 4. But you really didn't know you. And all this time you went through these phases of picking a self-image, picking a business or a company you would work for, and didn't even know who you were. And you reached the end of what you could ever be. And you're not fulfilled anymore. We already knew that was going to happen to you. We already knew that was coming. Because you were never born to stay stagnant. You were never born to just be okay with having enough. Your spiritual DNA is perfect. And it knows it is. So you have that itch. The higher side of your personality wants to express itself. It doesn't matter where you're at, what part of the world you're in. It knows it's more and it wants to do more. It wants to have more. And the minute you start to conform, and you've been conformed for too long, it no longer wants to be in you. It no longer wants to do what you're doing. Why? Why is this the nature of us? Because the law is create or disintegrate. Nothing rests. Your soul does not rest. Your soul is always wanting to be more, to have more, to achieve more. But what was conditioned in our behavior in society is to want to rest, to want to conform. We've been conditioned to conform. Let you put off the gas, or just sit back. What's wrong with people today? Conformity. No reason everybody's on pills or anxiety or depression or we're killing ourselves without even knowing it. We didn't understand the way the mind works. The mind is a perpetual transmutation of thought and energy. It never stops. But yet, we were conditioned to want to stop. They want to say, oh, that's good enough. Well, that's not the way the mind works. That's why you don't feel fulfilled anymore. And that's why the majority of you don't know where you're going. Because you didn't know that you were so much meant for more. You are a human being. You're always wanting to become something. And if you're restricting your birthright, you'll be unhappy. If you're restricting what you truly are needing to become, you will feel unfulfilled and unhappy. Now look at this young man that went to school, went off to the service, and came back. And he's gone to hometown. He is single. He doesn't know quite what to do. He's standing on the corner one morning, and a friend that he knew in school comes up and says, "Hi there, Charlie. What are you doing?" He says, "Nothing." His friend says, "Why don't you come down and work where I work? It's a pretty good place. The pay is regular. We've got all kinds of fringe benefits and so on." And so he does. And so he does. The odds are about 95 to 5 that his first job is taken as the result of random application. On the job, without thinking about it, the most natural thing in the world for him to do is to look around, see how the other guys are doing their job. And he began to do this the same way, assuming that what is normal for them is normal for him. No reason for this. He doesn't think about it. He just does it. Why did he go off to service? Because that's what they were doing. Everything that we're identifying with is because we're identifying ourselves with what somebody else is doing. And your mind is a perpetual transmutation. If you start to think from there, and that there is a place, and you start to think, I want to experience that, you can have whatever you want. But the chances are you're following other people. And you've got to go through their process. You've got to go through what they've done. You've got to go experience how they experience life, because that's the way they're thinking. and you become the average of the people that you surround yourself with. And the chances are, if 95 are going in the wrong direction, you're probably getting the wrong ideas from the wrong people. You went to school, whoever your average you were hanging around with, you went and you thought the way they did, and you went to go fulfill what they were fulfilling. Everything is just a state of consciousness. When have you ever thought, what is my why? When have you truly thought, truly thinking? Thinking is called imagining. Not taking their ideas, not taking their demonstrations, but truly live a life by design. That's not normal. That's why very few people do it. That's not normal. When have you ever thought and imagined, I will create my own future, and I will begin with a clear canvas. I will paint my picture first in my imagination, and then I will act it out in form. That's not normal. That's also why very few people do it. Success is not normal. Successfully thinking of your own blank canvas and filling it, not with the average of the people that you're hanging around with. You can go to the average of the people that go to college. And within inside of each one of those averages, you can find the average of those averages. All thinking in a certain way, all thinking to go into certain jobs, all thinking to go trade their time for money, all thinking to go provide services, to go trade it for somebody else, all thinking all thinking and doing the same. Or we can start with a blank canvas. Interesting. On the job, without thinking about it, the most natural thing in the world for him to do is to look around, to see how the other guys are doing their job, and to begin to become the same way as them, assuming what is normal for them is normal for him. No reason for this. He doesn't think about it. He just does it. This has been going on since we were born. The child has no ability to reject what was going on around it. Came in, and he accepted every idea that they told him as his. He had no other choice other than to accept everything that was going on in the family, how they were thinking, the average of their thinking, the average of their doing. And he just took it on. And here he's doing it again. Why is he doing this again without even thinking? That's the way he was born. He goes into business, going to work for people, and he doesn't question it. He falls in line. Now, he has stretching in front of him 50 years or more in the golden age that man has been dreaming of since the day of ancient Greece. What is he going to do with these 50 golden years? Well, let's take a good look. Take a good look at him. We know that he works 40 hours a week as a rule. Who made that? This leaves him 72 hours a week. When he is neither working nor sleeping, 72 free discretionary hours each week to do with what as he pleases. Now, at this point, of course, he is married. Why? Because the urge of man and the urge of woman to procreate. So he finds the average of the people around him. He gets with the average person around them. He falls into the average of the work that they do, but everything was an average. He could have fallen the average within the doctors, and he falls within the average of them. And then he finds the group that would normally associate with that group and finds the average woman from that society. When we start to look at this, there is no differentiation. There's just different levels of consciousness and different averages of consciousness. So it doesn't matter where you're at. This is right for everyone. But who was really doing that? Were you really thinking? Or were you just following? At this point, of course, he is married and has a little house, a little car. And this is about what he does with this free 72 hours every week. He'll do what the other guys are doing with their 72 hours every week, which is virtually nothing at all. The more we get down to different demonstrations of consciousness, the more we get an understanding of the different averages of consciousness that we have associated with, or that we have been programmed around, or the ideas that we have been subjective to, and what we have taken on as our own. Why did we do that? Because that's what we were ingrained to do. We were ingrained to become the average of the average people that we are around. This is not in one place. This is not in one society. This is all around the world. This is happening. It's happening all around the world. On a typical day, he'll quit right on the dot. He'll get in his car, go into his house, go to his kitchen, kiss his wife, and say, "I'm tired." They have even figured out why he says that. The experts believe that he is used to hear his father say that back when men used to get tired working during the day, and he picked it up, and he repeats this every night when he gets home. Amazing. He'll fall right in line. What he heard, what he saw. He bolts down to his little meal, and then he heads up to the living room where he turns on his escape box. Click. It takes 15 to 20 seconds for the screen to light up. A period of time he finds interminable, but he gets through it somehow, kicks the dog, or thumbs through a magazine or something. Then the screen lights up. He does too a little bit. There in the front of him, he sees people in all kinds of funny old-time costumes, all killing each other at a great rate. Now one expert has agreed that the average family can see more death and bloodshed and carnage on television set in a week than anyone in a war. But he sits there for 5 or 6 hours. 25% of all his free time now is spent in front of the tube. Now, there's nothing particular wrong with that, except that he's watching other people earning excellent incomes in the pursuit of their careers while he does not make a dime. What are we getting a better understanding of? Life experiences, averaging itself out to what end? To what end? Ask yourself where you're at today. What do you do? How do you spend your free time? Averaging yourself out to what end? What's coming? He sits for 5 to 6 hours until finally his wife says it's time for bed. We go through the motions day in, day out, day in, day out. He does this all over again, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. Expecting change? No, nothing's going to change. He's wasted 40 years later. The next morning he gets up and he does this all over again. He does this every day for 40 years. At the end of 40 years, he gets retired. Then he dies at 85 to 90. What is the problem? Is this a tragedy? Not really. If that is the way Charlie, our mythical, hypothetical young man, wants to spend his life. If he wants to spend his life that way, that is his business. He lives in a free society. He can do anything with his life he wants. But there is a terrible tragedy here. If he's living that way because of a total lack of a decision, if he's living that way simply because he is still doing what he was doing in the first and second grade, and that is going along with all the fellows up and down the block on the unspoken assumption that they know how to live, then there is a real tragedy there, because they have never known how to live. Where was the tragedy? They were conditioned since birth. It wouldn't be such a tragedy if everybody really knew the truth. Now, would it? If you really could fast forward through time, understand the mind and the way your behavior works and the way people work. But it's a real tragedy when you were conditioned at birth and didn't even know the truth. He never finds out who he is. He never reaches into the deep depths of his abilities, his talents. He never learns that he can have just about anything and everything he could ever want in the world. That he could call his own shots, tell his own fortune. And it's kind of a pity. What are we getting a better understanding of? People all around the world, this is happening to you. Why did we create the Institute of the Mind? What is our why? As a young man, I knew that I was more than just a man. I knew I had come into a system. I knew the people around me. I knew there was something wrong. What's wrong with people today? They really don't know who they are. And all around the world, we are wide open. Our mind is open, wide open, just to accept what everyone is doing. Take on all those behaviors and fall in line. Never to really know who we really are. The law of nature is created to disintegrate. The truth is, you could have had anything you wanted. Our why is to open up institutes around the world and help people globally. People who are ready to become more, to be more, to have more, to achieve more. Why? Because it was your birthright. Why is it important for us to spread this information? Because it's our responsibility, we know it. It's our responsibility, we know it. Everyone around the world is programmed to do as they do, and to become the average of the average people that they're averagely around, and to do as they do, and just to fall in line. But the true nature of us is never to be that, and to have that, and to see that. We're born for more. Nature will try to grow as far as it can. A tree will try to expand itself and grow its roots as far down as it can go, grow its limbs out as high as it can reach. It's always going as far as it can go and more. Always doing the most it can. But here we have humans that have the ability to do anything, don't. Why do humans not try to stretch, not to expand and go as far as they can? Because they had a choice. You've got free will. The majority of people choose not to grow. But you could have gone anywhere. You are programmed to do as you do. You were born in poverty, chances are you're thinking impoverished ideas. And the chances are you'll never break out of it because you were born to do as they do. until you really understand the true nature of you, that it's really perfect. But you'll never understand what that is unless you seek. If you're born into a middle average family, you'll do as they do and you'll live more or less the same. But there's something deep down inside of you knows there's more. And you'll follow along the same thing you'll do with the average people you're around. You'll do as they do. But you know that there was something inside of you that could have done more. And if you're in the higher side of the average people that you're around, you'll do as they do. You still won't be fulfilled. Meet them all the time too. Why? Because they get to the point where they don't know what to do anymore. And they're no longer fulfilled. Why? Why is this happening around the world? Because your birthright was create or disintegrate. You're not creating. You're not being fulfilled. You don't know who you are. You think you're the average of all the average people and you got all their ideas, but that's not you. The higher side of you is wanting more because it knows it's more. And it's identified itself with its identity that came from them. That's not who you are. Everybody needs this information. It doesn't matter where you're at. Because your birthright is perfect. And your birthright wants to become more. I'm going to put on a little bit of Bob here. I went to go work with Bob in the Institute, Procter & Gallagher Institute, because he had a way of communicating. He had a way of talking. He had information that he could communicate to people and help them really understand. Now, I was studying this information before I met Bob. I was building my companies before I met Bob. But I wanted to learn from him. I wanted to learn how to take the information I was studying for years and be able to deliver it to people around the world in a better way, in a more proper way, so that they would be able to understand it. And so I went to work with the Procter & Gallagher Institute, became a consultant, and I did that on purpose because I wanted to bring it back to our companies. He had solid material that we teach today. We brought it to our companies. We teach it to our people that are ready and willing. And really the people that are running our companies or managing or in sales, we're teaching them this information because business is the development of people. If they want to go beyond, if they want to have the results that they want, they're going to have to learn to not be like themselves. Themselves have gotten them as far as they can go right now. That's all you'll ever get. But it's through this understanding that we grow. Let's take a look at this video. Zach, do I need to share it? Let me know if I'm in the right one. Yeah, we're good.
You got to do things you really didn't do in the past. Here we say one of the go into the part where you got to let stretch your mind. You got to do things you really didn't do in the past. Here we say one of the most basic and yet dynamic laws of life is create or disintegrate. Now, you know, it's a statement, it's a concept that we've probably heard many times. It's an absolute law. Nothing stays where it is. Constant evolution of change. The law decrees, nothing rests. We literally live in an ocean of motion. And if we're not growing, we're going the other way. Now, the odds of you growing just, what do we use the words? Chance, accident? No. The odds of you growing without any conscious decisions on your part is slim. It's there, but it's slim. Now, some people are involved in that. They're in the minority, and they're what you call unconscious competence. But they are growing. They're not disintegrating. They're creating. But they don't understand what they're doing, and because they don't understand the greatest opportunities in life, they're not sharing it. You go talk to that young lady who was up here last night, Karen Brooks. She is building something in Australia, but not just in Australia. That's immediate surroundings. She's building it all over the world. But it's so big. It's so phenomenal. Every expression of life is moving in one direction or another. Absolutely nothing will remain as it is. Now come down to line 248. The nucleus of your being is spiritual. You are a spiritual being. You are truly created in God's image. This is not a myth. Listen, one of the greatest rocket scientists that ever lived, considered the father of the space program, he said, after studying the spectacular mysteries of the cosmos, I have come into a firm belief in the existence of God. Now, this is a scientist. He said the natural laws are so precise that they had to be set by someone. Now, you might want to argue with that. That's fine if you do. Go ahead. I choose to listen to people that are as bright as him and as accomplished as him. See, he keeps it so simple in one respect. In another, it must be so complicated. We use it as a joke. What do you think? You're a rocket scientist or something? You know, when President Kennedy asked him what it would take to build the rocket that would go there and come back safely, he answered him in 5 words: the will to do it. Now, if you don't really understand your own personality, if you don't understand your own mental faculties, you would miss what he meant. He said, if you will develop one of the higher faculties that God gave you that separates you from all the rest of animal life, then we could do it. You'll have to develop it and you'll have to use it. The will to do it. The will gives us a focus. How do you think Phil got all that hardware? He had the will to do it. He focused. He did exactly what he told him. I said, Phil, I want you to read this. Now, I said it's maybe a little heavy reading, but read it anyway. Even if you don't understand it, read it. And just keep reading it. And one day you're going to say, wow. Wow. A serious, in-depth conversation with him, you'll probably realize that he really knows this stuff. Guy's been coming here every week. He comes, sits right in the front, and soaks it up. He takes more notes than anybody I see. You know why? He wants to keep growing. You're an expression of spirit. Spirit's always for expansion and fuller expression, never for disintegration. All of nature expands and expresses itself in a greater way. Nature knows no failures. So do you see, you could say, that's natural. Natural isn't what everybody does. Natural is nature's way. Come down the bottom. It says, dissatisfaction is a built-in motivator. Now, my grandmother pretty well raised me, and she was a dear little lady. I mean, I loved her dearly, and I probably really aggravated her a lot of times, and I always borrowed money from Grandma. And Grandma would give it to me. It would be all bundled up, and she'd hook me. Now, I need this back. Now, shall I give it back, Grandma? I always give it back. She was my... She would watch us while Mother went to work so that she could earn enough to keep us. So she was like the warden. I mean, she was there all the time. And she was very good at laying guilt on us. I mean, God. When we ask for something, you should be satisfied with what you got. Your mother's working hard to keep you. And I knew I was going to hear that when I asked for something. You should be satisfied. You should. Grandma was wrong. She was wrong. Now, I used to think of her just as an angel of God. But she was wrong. I never thought she was wrong about anything as a kid. Grandma seemed to know everything. She was wrong. You should never be satisfied. Happy? Yeah. Dissatisfaction is a creative vibration that you get in. When you are sufficiently dissatisfied with how you're living, you'll change it. When you're satisfied, understand you're not going anywhere. Flip over to line 279. When you begin to think of how you're living and what you're doing relative to what you are capable of with the potential you possess, you may not really understand this. Maybe you're here. This might be your first exposure to this. Some of you have read a few books. Some of you have been to a few seminars. And so you think you maybe understand it. I've been studying this for 57 years every day. And I know that I'm only scratching the surface. Begin to think of how you're living, what you're doing relative to what you're capable of, with the potential you possess. Keep thinking this way, and you can be sure dissatisfaction will set in if it hasn't already. You know, when you start to get comfortable, you want to start thinking, how could I get really dissatisfied with everything? On line 295, we must clearly stamp in our mind that all things are possible. We must never permit an individual in positions of power to convince us otherwise. And I think we saw that in examples of it can't be done. Now flip over to page 42. As we go into this exercise, this is true make-believe. You're toast. There's a song by Nat King Cole. Download the song, put it on your phone, play it at least once or twice a day. It's pretend. Pretend. Well, look here now, on line 205, or 305, pardon me. As images come on the screen of your mind that would represent a much more meaningful life, just ask yourself, do I want this? Now listen, this is very important. You pay attention here. Very important. This is where we're going to go. You got to ask yourself as images come on your mind. This is where you're going to be quiet. You're not going to disturb the person beside you. You don't want to break their trip. Ask yourself, when anything comes up, do I want this? That is the only prerequisite. Now, if you're not used to doing this, and you probably aren't, most people aren't, it's not going to be an easy thing to do. Now, when it flashes on your mind, do I want this? That is the only prerequisite. is, do I want it? Whether you can afford it is irrelevant. I don't care if you're in debt up to your ears. I don't care if you've got the idea you'll never get out of debt. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Do you want it? That's all you have to ask. You don't have to know how you'll do it. You haven't got the foggiest idea how you do it. When I sat down in a den on Maplewood Lane in Glenview, Illinois, and I wrote on a piece of paper, I will build a company that operates all over the world. Now, I don't know where you are, but I know you're not where I am. You're somewhere in the world. Yet we found a medium. Since we can't go everywhere, we can be everywhere. Everyone, there's the way, it's here. Listen, listen, listen. And you'll find out how. And I want to tell you that you want to come back because we got lots of good information. Okay?
Now, I'm going to touch on a couple of areas of create or disintegrate. Every expression is moving in a direction. It's law. It's nature's way. The question is whose ideas have you been using? This is your birthright. This is the birthright you had since you were born. But nobody ever taught us better. Whose ideas have I been using? What ideas have been using? So powerful. What ideas have been using me? Were the ideas of the average people that I was around? Was it their ideas, or is it really me? If I want to be me, I better know who me is. The key. That's a key to success. It's a key to life. If you're looking for freedom, if you're wanting to go beyond where you've ever been, if you're ready and willing to go into the unknown, to really know who you truly are, you better know who I am is. Whose ideas have been using me? And the law is create or disintegrate. Something is coming. The chances are what's coming was really not your choice. The chances are the things that were coming were not really your choices either. You just took on their ideas and you used them to create your reality. We didn't know how the mind worked. We didn't know the chain of events in our life would cause other chain of events in our life. You didn't know that a thought precedes a thought that precedes a thought that precedes a thought that precedes a thought, and before you know it, you're off into a place. You weren't really regulating your mind and regulating your own thinking. Every expression is moving in a direction. It's law. You didn't know that you didn't know. Did you choose? Have you really chosen this life, or was it chosen for you? Have you really stopped to think? Really stop to think. Not just to stop to think, but even to stop to think about what you've been thinking about and whose ideas have you been using. When you begin to think about what you've been thinking about, you'll begin to think about how you're living and see that you're really not living. So powerful, so profound. Welcome to the Institute of the Mind. Welcome to you. We're teaching you who you are, how to go wherever you want to go. Again, we have our classes Monday through Friday, teaching people about themselves, teaching them about who they truly are, teaching you how to stretch and to go beyond, and become who you truly want to become. Invest in yourself. Nobody else will. Nobody else can. Have a wonderful day.